Welcome. I am Gypsy Richardson, today's worship associate. As we begin our service, know this. You are welcome here, whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your race, age, class, ability, or gender. You are welcome here, for our faith calls us to a covenant to honor every person's worth and dignity. Today we are going to keep the announcements to a minimum because of all that is going on, but you can stay informed by reading the UUPTADE newspaper on Friday, Up newspaper on Friday, and checking our website, UUTC.org. So I will not be expressly giving any announcements today. Here we believe there is strength in community, and it grows when we share our deep and particular joys and sorrows. You have been asked to write down your joys and sorrows before the service today. I will read them into the microphone while the candles are lit. There's a candle of healing for Barbara Yates, who slipped coming downstairs at home on Wednesday and broke her femur. Yes. Surgery went well, and she is in good spirits. And a joy that both their boys will soon arrive for the holidays. A joy that Kay Webb and R.K. Young celebrated their 10th anniversary yesterday. Woo! Pamela Holder, pastor at Bethel A, fell down and has a concussion. Prayers for her and her church. It is our custom to take a moment to greet each other while remaining seated. I also forgot, I want to welcome Jama back. She's finally able to come back to church, and she's feeling much better, and she may even go dancing in the new year. So we hope so. That is your signal.
The Louisa May Alcott. Forgive me if I'm a little disheveled. This morning I saw a white squirrel and I had to make a dash. Just had to see if I could see it better. I give you words from Barbara J. Pescan, words that resonate with me because I too am an old one, and I too have crossed the river of time. I come back to this meeting place as you do. One of the old ones stood up in the morning light and spoke to those who had come back to the river. Now we have come again to this place. It is a good thing. My life apart from you is not as strong. Yes, I have danced, and I have told the stories at my own fire, and I have sung to all the 6 directions. But when I am with you, my friends, I know better who it is in me that sings. Our opening hymn for this season of Advent is number 225, O come, Emmanuel. Please rise in body or spirit.
As we move deeper into our service, we will be lighting the chalice, and we will say the words in unison. We gathered this morning as one, a community united by common ideals, love, justice, and yet look around. Look at the faces of those around you. Every one of us within our story needs strength and faults. We light our chalice today, honoring our common connection and all the uniqueness that lives within each of us. Next, we will light the Advent calendars. The first one is Hope. The second one is Peace. No, it isn't. I can see that. And the last one for today is Joy. You got it? You should. Yep.
To be invited to this service and also to be invited to participate in it by lighting the candles and singing, and I'm grateful. Today I'm here representing Louisa May Alcott, who really lived from 1832 to 1888. Have you ever heard of me? It's been a long time. I grew up well-educated but very poor. I loved more than anything to read and write stories. I wrote books to earn money so my family could eat. The most famous one was called Little Women. Ring any bells? It was about 4 sisters who lived during the Civil War. Today, I'm going to talk to the grown-ups about how, in a way, we write the stories of our own lives. We can't decide about everything that happens to us in our lives, but we do get to decide what's important to us. We get to decide what stories we think are important. The story of stories doesn't start with me, doesn't end with me, but I've picked out some books that are more modern than I am. You might even think some of them are important. Hope you know some of them. This one comes from 1936. It's on the screen, but I'm holding the book for the young people, for the people on this side. The Story of Ferdinand by Monroe Leaf challenged the idea that bulls and men always had to be looking for a fight. Ferdinand preferred to sit in the pasture and smell the flowers instead of butting heads with the other bulls. The Carrot Seed is our next book. The Carrot Seed, in Ruth Krause's 1945 book, a child plants a tiny seed, and I think we'll see it in a moment, and cares for the tiny seed. His family keeps saying, oh, it's probably never going to grow into anything, but he stays true to his dream, and guess what? A gigantic carrot rewards his faith and persistence. In 1952, E.D. White came out with Charlotte's Web. It's about a spider named Charlotte who stood up for justice as she knew it. She rescued her friend Wilbur the pig from becoming bacon. And when Wilbur wondered why she did it, she said, "You have been my friend. You have been my friend. That in itself is a tremendous thing. By helping you, I have lifted myself up a trifle, and heaven knows anyone can use a little bit of that." One of the most wonderful things about stories and books is that one can build on another, and I'm going to talk later about where Little Women was built from. But George by Alex Gino from 2015 builds on Charlotte's Web. The title character here is George. She knows she's a girl, but her second grade classmates think she's a boy, maybe because her name is George. George's class is doing Charlotte's Web as the school play, and George really, really wants to act as Charlotte. went and took away all the trappings. He took away the decorations and the candles and the bows. But Christmas came anyway. And so afterward he puzzled, it came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, just maybe, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas means a little bit more. As you go through the rest of your day, maybe you'll think about what stories mean the most to you and why. And now we're ready to sing you out. Do we have someone who's very excited?
As you can tell, we made an exception this morning. We usually don't invite guests to sing in the choir, but we made an exception this morning. She was so pitiful when she came in, wanted to sing with the choir. So I said, well, okay, this one time.
I wish you starlight.
I asked to ask for your offering this morning. And the reason is I'll be sharing some of my Little Women, and I want to say that it was in part that book was a spiritual exercise for me. It represents the spiritual value of generosity with a capital G. Not only will you hear how my characters widened their circle of generosity, to creating the story represented generosity to me and to my family who desperately needed the money, but to me personally, because I needed to write out of the truth in my heart. So be generous when the ushers pass the basket your way, or be generous with the computers and the internet and the realm. Your community and your world need a share of your treasure, and they also need your story. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for allowing me to take this offering, not me personally, what would I do with it? But on behalf of the UU Church.
You go running off with that money now.
These words are from the introduction to the Stories of the Spirit, Stories of the Heart, Parables of the Spiritual Path from Around the World by Christina Feldman and Jack Kornfield. Long before the birth of formal religions, storytelling was a vehicle for sustaining age-old wisdom. Within the stories, legend, history, and profound truths about life found their expression. Stories introduced their listeners to a world of magic and mystery, to the possibility of otherness. Stories fascinated and soothed the tired mind at the end of a weary day. Stories, too, have long been the traditional method of teaching and learning. The stories of the spiritual journeys of others nourish us, revealing profound psychological and spiritual realities, illuminating the inevitable difficulties and realizations of all who journey along with us. Stories show a path, shine a light on our way, teach us how to see, remind us of the greatest of human possibilities. We are invited to laugh, to awaken, to join our journey with others. Their stories are our stories. They have the power to touch us, move us, and inspire us.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Gypsy. Thank you, Carlene and John. Thank you, choir. Thank you for letting me sing with you. And thank you all for inviting me back. I promise you that I have something different to say from the last time I had a sermon here, nearly 4 years ago now. You're going to hear quite a lot again from my best-known work, Little Women. I must warn you that I'll reveal secrets from its pages. So if you haven't read it, go out and buy a copy now. But if you haven't read it and want to be entirely surprised, you may leave now or stop up your ears. I'm going to begin today the same way I began the last time I was here, though, the way I began the book, with 4 sisters talking about their hopes for the imminent holiday. Thank you for educating me on turning on my microphone. I should have said thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Doug. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents, grumbled Joe, lying on the rug. It's so dreadful to be poor, sighed Meg, looking down at her old dress. I don't think it's fair for some girls to have lots of pretty things and other girls nothing at all, added little Amy with an injured sniff. We've got Father and Mother and each other anyhow, said contented Beth from her corner. The 4 young faces on which the firelight shone brightened at the cheerful words, but darkened again when Joe said sadly, "We haven't got Father, and shall not have him for a long time." She didn't say perhaps never, but each silently added it, thinking of Father far away where the fighting was. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then Meg said in an altered tone, "You know, the reason Mother proposed not having any presents this Christmas was because it's going to be a hard winter for everyone, and she thinks we ought not to spend money for pleasure when our men are suffering in the army." The girls argue over the presents, struggling with the tension between their wants and desire to make our little sacrifices. By the time their mother, Marmee, returns with an eagerly awaited letter from their father, a chaplain in the Union Army, presumably a Unitarian one, they have made peace with each other and reminisced about a game they used to play based on a Pilgrim's Progress. They have planned to spend their dollars, they each have one, on presents for their mother rather than little things they'd like to have. Marmee, in turn, hints that there will be at least one present for each girl. My second chapter, A Merry Christmas, takes the little women further along the path of generosity. When they wake, each finds a book under her pillow. Jo knew it very well, for it was that beautiful old story of the best life ever lived, and Joe felt that it was a true guidebook for any pilgrim going the long journey. The girls go to the table eager for breakfast, but their mother greets them with the news that a neighbor boy has come to say his family is suffering hunger and cold. My girls, will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present? Let me find the spot. They were all unusually hungry, having waited nearly an hour. And for a minute, no one spoke. Only a minute. For Joe exclaimed impetuously, "I'm so glad you came before we began. May I go and help carry the things to the poor little children?" Beth asked eagerly. "I shall take the cream and the muffins," added Amy, heroically giving up the articles she most wanted. Meg was already covering the buckwheats and piling the bread up into one big plate. A short procession down the snowy street later, they arrived at the tenement where the poor immigrant family lived. A poor, bare, miserable room it was, with broken windows, no fire, ragged bedclothes, a sick mother, wailing baby, and a group of pale, hungry children cuddled under one old quilt, trying to keep warm. How the big eyes stared and the blue lips smiled as the girls went in. "Oh, my God, it is good angels come to us," cried the poor woman, crying for joy. "Funny angels in hoods and mittens," said Joe, and set them laughing. Some of you have read Little Women as much as 50 years ago or more. And you may have seen a succession of movies about Meg, Joe, Beth, and Amy. Not that I would know anything about movies. Ever since 1868, when the first volume was published, the critics have loved my book or hated it. Not too many of those, frankly. Thought it belittles females or empowers them, thought it's too Christian or not Christian enough. They thought Joe should have married Laurie instead of the professor, or shouldn't have married at all. And just so you know, the publisher insisted that Joe be married by the end of the book. It was the times. I would have preferred her to remain single as I did. What's important is that the sisters lived their values of generosity and self-awareness. They let love temper their squabbles, fed the hungry, embraced the stranger, centered those who were othered. I hope Little Women has inspired readers to bend toward justice. In fact, I say it endorses your mission to support individual spiritual journeys and promote social, economic, and environmental justice. But I am biased. Stories inspire. We internalize them. We select stories for our own reasons to become part of our own personal narrative. Under their Marmie's influence, my characters took a guidebook. I didn't identify the book by name, leaving it to you, gentle reader, to decide what it could be. I dare to hope that some readers took Little Women, or parts of it, as guides for themselves. I patterned Little Women on A Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, a Christian allegory. Despite our family's free-thinking Unitarian religious views, my father loved it, and the book became one of those stories that shaped my personal story. It was about getting to heaven after a difficult yet honorable journey. My family managed to lift itself out of poverty without compromising our principles and reached a promised land ourselves of sorts. to be fair, we succeeded with the help of some wealthy and influential friends. Another story I internalized was A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, along with the rest of that Unitarian writer's work. Perhaps that explains how I can speak for Christmas past and Christmas present and maybe even Christmas future a bit. So, how powerful are the stories we choose for ourselves? Well, I'm not going to tell you that if you visualize something, it will automatically materialize. Whether it's world peace or an empty hitching post, a parking spot. Okay, and I certainly won't say that if your dreams don't come true, it's somehow your fault for not imagining or creating well enough. Obviously, we can't and shouldn't invent ourselves as thoroughly as a writer does characters in a book. But we choose the experiences that will be important in our lives, and we choose how we present ourselves to the world. I made that pretty explicit in a chapter of Little Women called Castles in the Air. I'm going to read from it for you one more time. The four sisters and their neighbor, the boy Laurie, walk up the hill behind the house and admire the view. The sun was low, and the heavens glowed with the splendor of an autumn sunset. Gold and purple clouds lay on the hilltops, and rising high into the ruddy light were silvery white peaks that shone like the airy spires of some celestial city. Joe says, "Wouldn't it be fun if all the castles in the air which we make could come true and we could live in them?" They take turns picking out their favorite dream of the future. Laurie expects to be a famous musician after traveling the world and settling in Germany. Meg sees herself well off and mistress of a lovely house with all sorts of luxurious things. Joe is next. "I'd have a stable full of Arabian steeds and rooms piled with books, and I'd write out of a magic inkstand so that my works should be as famous as Laurie's music. I think I shall write books and get rich and famous. That is my favorite dream." Then Beth, "Mine is to stay at home safe with Father and Mother and help take care of the family. I only wish we shall all be well and be together, nothing else." "I have lots of wishes, but the pet one is to be an artist and go to Rome and do fine pictures and be the best artist in the whole world," is Amy's modest desire. Spoiler alert, none of the girls fully realizes her dream. But each moves toward her goal, creating her own story within the bounds of circumstance and personal growth and change. For example, when Meg's intelligent, kind-hearted sweetheart proposes, her story of luxurious things in a fine house becomes the story of lively children in a small cottage. When I say we shape the stories of our lives, I'm talking about choosing what we value with self-awareness and self-reflection and with lots of editing of our personal stories as we grow and learn. Unitarians know all about evolution, right? Writing about that Castles in the Air chapter, my biographer, John Madison, pointed out that the March girls acquire the wisdom to accept fate when necessary and the courage to build less selfish dreams when possible. They find happiness not in narrow self-gratification, but in self-improvement and service to others. I do not understand how stories have gotten such a bad name. Some people equate them with lies, as in, that's just a made-up story. Or, there you go, telling stories again. Or they're treated as juvenile and trivial because children like them. Stories, though, are doorways to our souls. Like poetry and myth, tales can contain truths that inspire and ignite us for the greater good, more so than mere facts. A Unitarian Universalist minister once told the story of a mentor who held up a copy of the Bible. "Everything in this book is true," the elder said, "and some of it actually happened." Little Women is more fact than fiction. I changed some times, places, names. Old Aunt March is entirely made up. But we really lived most of it. The 4 youth were drawn from real-life prototypes. Meg was Anna, my older sister, who really did act like she does in the book and was eager to be a wife and mother. Beth was Lizzie, the shy, budding musician who was next youngest after me and who died young, just like her character did. Amy was May, the artist, my youngest sister, who was allowed, get this, to draw on the walls of our house, and her drawings are still there, even though the house is a museum. And Josephine, that was I, Louisa May Alcott, known in the family by a gender-bending nickname like Joe's. At home, I was Lou, or Louie. Let's talk about me literally shaping my stories, writing them, I mean. I scribbled incessantly, like Joe did. I wrote as naturally as I drew breath. I wrote to sustain myself and my family. The March family's poverty had nothing on the Alcott families at times. We were often truly hungry. But what I wrote about was my personal story, the things I valued most. Creating your own story, whether you write it down or not, might be a spiritual imperative. UU minister Kate Landis says, "The ancients told stories and wrote parables to explain what they had found when exploring the mystery. That is all religion is. People wondering about where we came from, why we are here, and where we go when we die. Holy books are all just ideas people had about what made life meaningful. There's nothing to be afraid of." Whoops, I skipped something important. What you think about holiness is just as valid and just as true. So what do you think about holiness? There's nothing to be afraid of. Your spiritual quest, your spiritual story begins now. I hope the stories I wrote and published inspired other writers to create stories for new generations of readers, stories that also convey values like peace, like Ferdinand the Bull's, faith like the child's and the carrot seed, compassion and generosity like Charlotte the spider's, self-expression like George, Melissa's, and human values that transcend commercialism as the Grinch discovered. That's not bad for mere stories. And now, the choir will sing the first verse of our closing hymn, number 226, People Look East. You're invited to rise in body or spirit and join in the second and third verses. Sorry.
Have I got some mic? Yeah, sure enough. This hymn has a little ending which is maybe a little bit difficult for the congregation to get into, but we're going to practice it, we're going to rehearse it. And then I'll expect you to sing because the choir's going to stop and then I'll listen for it. The song is People Look East, and the refrain is People Look East, people look east, people look east. But sopranos, and then altos, and then tenors and basses join in. And you may pick one of those to sing. The tenors and the basses are down low. Right? Sopranos are not too high, and the altos are kind of in the middle. This is how that part goes. This is how the final part of the song goes. People look east. Just stay seated. People, just the soprano part. And then the altos. Yeah, that's good. Now, start the soprano and add the alto. Yeah. Then the tenors and the basses come in. You hear that? Okay. All right, we're going to sing the first verse, and we're going to slow down at the end, and then on the second and third verses, it'll be up to you. It's my Christmas present. Or the story I'm telling. Okay, play us some intro, please, ma'am.
People look east, the time is near of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able, trim the hearth
Listen now, lips, sopranos, altos,
people look
tenors,
east, love the guest is on the way.
Got it? You ready to stand up, Peter? I can tell. Yeah. Everybody, okay, here we go. All right, we're gonna rehearse that last part. Okay? Just listen to the sopranos sing the whole line, and then the sopranos among you will sing that with the sopranos in the choir. Here we go, just the sopranos from there to the end. And for those of you of the female sex who think you're challenged by these high notes, you may sing the alto line, okay, which goes like this. Just the altos now. Here we go.
People look east, love the guest is on the way.
Typical alto part. Not a whole lot happening. Okay, sopranos and altos together. It's required.
People look east, love the guest is on the way.
Let's hear it, ladies, all together with the choir. Just those two lines. Add them in a minute. People look
east, love the guest is on the way.
Not bad. Here we go with the gents and the tenors, the basses and the tenors, I should have said. Here we go. Just those two parts. There we go. Gentlemen, that's your part. Choose one of those. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, one of those notes. Ba or ba. Nothing like none of that. That's the sopranos. Here we go. With the singing once again, guys, then I'll have the congregation join you. Here we go, guys. People look, the guest is on the way. Enough of that. Here we go. Let's sing the second verse.
Yeah, there it is.
There we go. Second verse.
Furrows be glad, the earth is bare. One more seed is planted there. Give up your strength, the seed to nourish the flower may flourish. People look east, love the roses on the way.
That sounded fantastic. when we get to that part on the third verse, the choir's going to stop singing and just the congregation will be singing. It's a challenge. Here we go. Third verse. Is it up? Yeah. Here we go.
Stars keep the watch when night is dim. One more light the bowl shall brim, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun and moon together.
Yeah. All right, here we go again. Last verse, one more time. I love this song. Stars keep the watch when night is dim. One more light the bowl shall brim, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun and moon together. Yeah, you know which star that is. Here we go. Stars keep the watch when night is dim. One more light the bowl shall brim, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun and moon together. People, love the star is on the way. Yay. And we're still getting that under an hour.
I don't know how long this is.
But turn her mic off if it gets too long.
Circling back to the Christmas story, once again, I'll close with words from Unitarian Universalist Lenny Scoville, The Meaning of Christmas. And as far as the meaning of Christmas is concerned, as a Unitarian Universalist, I believe it is part of our spiritual maturation to search for and assign meaning to all the days of our lives. In this, Christmas is the high water mark of the year, a time when the world slows and considers our relationships with each other. Isn't that in itself enough to celebrate? Worthy of decorations, lights, and music. The gifts we give each other at this time of year are more than just demonstrations of our generosity. They are symbols of the gifts we are capable of giving on all the other days of our lives. Gifts of love, compassion, industry, advocacy, the gifts of our common humanity. May it be so.